Yes, that's right. The Survivor Know-It-Alls are back here after episode number 4. And Stephen Fishback, boy, have we got an episode to talk about tonight.
What a sequence of crazy, awful, terrible events. So much bad play leading to such an explosive tribal council. Wow, I don't even know what to say about that, largely because it was so obviously bad. But David has such a big story that he's so obviously going to do well. I'm really conflicted.
Lots of bad to talk about here tonight as we say goodbye to the Tiger Mama, Lucy.
Yeah, we were all sad to see her go. She had a big impact on the season. Do you think that was part of it? It's like, you know what? She's not making any contribution here. Let's get her out of the way.
It was so wild to see her nowhere. It was a real Monica Padilla situation where she's nowhere. Oh, she's everywhere. She's everywhere. Uh-oh, watch out. She's gone.
Yeah.
So a lot to talk through tonight here with Stephen Fishback, and very excited to take your questions as well. Hashtag RHAP as we go through the episode number 4 of the Millennials and Gen Xers on this Wednesday night. Little programming note up at the top of the show. Next Wednesday night is supposed to be the date of debate number 3. Again, you never know how politics 2016 is going to play out. We're assuming there will be debate number 3. If that is the case, Stephen Fishback and I are going to be doing Know-It-Alls on the morning of Thursday, October 20th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific.
Let's just plan to chat then no matter what, even if we're doing the Know-It-Alls or not. It'll be a nice conversation.
Okay, that's the perfect way that I want to kick off October 20th. That will be fantastic. Yeah. So we will have Know-It-Alls coming to you guys on Thursday morning. And then if for whatever reason...
Which is your birthday. Which is your birthday, yes. Which is why it's relevant that that's the way you want to kick off the day.
That's right. That's right. Nothing gets past Stephen Fishback, especially on the Know-It-Alls. So assuming that there is debate number 3, and then if for whatever reason there is no debate number 3, then Stephen Fishback and I will do our own debate right here tonight.
If anyone wants to send Rob a birthday present, you know, the 20th is the date for it.
Sure. Yeah. That's right. So also, Stephen Fishback, one other programming note as far as tomorrow goes. So first off, I'm going to be talking on our exit interview with Mama Tiger herself, Lucy. Then I will have a recap podcast with the one and only Randy Bailey. Randy and I are in a very good place right now. So excited to talk with Randy about the episode, patched up our differences and ready to talk things.
Finally.
About the Millennials. And the Gen Xers. And then we are going to have our voicemail show. Steven's friend and mine, Miles Nye, will join me. He's coming into the studio to talk about the voicemails from this episode, from your feedback. But we're doing that pretty early in the day, so waste no time getting your voicemails in. robhasawebsite.com/voicemail or 323-282-RHAP. So busy Thursday coming up on the podcast.
He's coming over to your house?
Yeah, he's coming over here. A rare in-person voicemail show.
I want to live in LA.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
it has ups and downs. But Stephen, so speaking of ups and downs, let's talk about the Gen X tribe, because we have about like 4 or 5 different people to talk through here in this episode. And I think that most of them played this incorrectly tonight, which led to a crazy tribal council. Somebody's going to fact check me on this, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I believe this is the first effective idol play, and I mean effective in that it changed the course of who was going home. The first effective idol play in Survivor history, going back to Heroes versus Villains, when Tom Westman played the idol in the JT swap, I believe at Final 8, the 3-3-2 Suri vote, when they canceled out the 3 votes that they were trying to flush the idol. And they played the idol, but JT flipped his vote over. I think that is the only other time that there was an effective idol play pre-merge in Survivor history.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a nutty. It's a little bit of a nutty statistic. And of course, there's actually a reason for that. That's not just a crazy coincidence. It's because it's a terrible idea to play an idol pre-merge in Survivor.
Yeah, well, let's take this from David's perspective first and whether or not that we like this move. And I think that we're both on the same page as to why we don't like it. But I actually think that it's going to be okay for him, Steven. But let's just talk this through. Why was this so bad?
Clearly going to be okay for him, right? Again, like the Gen X story is entirely told from David and Ken's perspective. And like, I think so both of them are going to do well. But the reason why it's bad here is because David is sacrificing a lot to get very little. Now, David is a big fan of the game. He has to know a swap is coming soon. So for him to make a big move, to give up his idol, to save someone who he might not even swap with. And granted, like he doesn't know the swap is coming tomorrow, but he's got to assume there's a swap coming soon. You know, certainly in Contemporary Survivor, certainly starting on a 2-tribe season, a swap is coming. So to sacrifice an idol to save someone is on right there out of the gate. Not that smart a move. You know, pre-swap, pre-merge. David wasn't even being targeted here. You know, David was talking about, oh, I'm on the bottom, my group is on the bottom, but like he wasn't. Like Lucy and Jessica were the ones who were being targeted. David's out of the crosshairs. You know, you just want to get through the pre-merge with your group intact as much as possible. You know, setting yourself up as a kingpin, as a big player this early only attracts unwanted attention. Not only is he playing the idol and getting rid of the idol from himself, he's putting a big source of disinformation or of confusion back into the game. Suddenly anyone could have the idol. You know, he's not going to have any idea. He goes from a source of having, knowledge and power to one of confusion. There's more that's wrong with this, Rob, and I'm going to hand it off to you to take it. Yeah.
I don't mind the part about the idol going back into the game. I think it's too early to worry about that. And actually, I think that the only good thing for David in this is that I think that people looked at him as being super schemy and somebody who was probably that you needed to deal with because he had the idol. And just going back to the Australian survivor of it all, Steven, I think that perhaps it's a net positive for David not to be a person seen as somebody having the idol, because as talking with Paul in the exit interview, he said, we all knew David had the idol. He was somebody that we were worried about because he had the idol. Maybe he becomes somebody that you worry about less now that he doesn't have the idol, sort of gets rid of it. And as you've talked about before with Survivor Cambodia, not having an advantage, not having an idol, it's a reason that people will worry about you less. But that's just going back to, for David, not only the decision to play the idol here, but to play it on Jessica, who of all people was somebody who sold out him and Ken earlier in this episode.
Yes. Jessica is someone who Ken and David go to her with this plan, like, hey, let's do this. You're the target. Let's take control of this. Jessica goes right over to Lucy.
Yeah, this is very suspicious. Lucy, why is he telling me that you're trying to vote me out? This doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah. And Lucy was the one person who came to them. Now, granted, Lucy didn't play this right either.
No,
but she was the one who, who actually wanted to work with Ken and David. And then that's the person who David sacrifices his idol to eliminate from the game in favor of the person who betrayed him. Plus, not for nothing, Ken voted for Jessica. Jessica voted for Cece. So, Ken is here, or sorry, Ken and David are talking about, like, creating an alliance to take control of the game. Not only are you pre-merged, not only are you pre-swap, your alliance is voting against each other. You're going to go
tribal tomorrow. Live tribal.
And the other, it's
you would think that because it looked like David and Cece were on the same page. They both voted against Lucy, but that it did not seem as though David and Ken were on the same page. Either David just had this idea and didn't talk it through with Ken, or Ken was not in agreement that this was the right course of action at this tribal council.
Yeah. And, which right is not a great testament for having your alliance take charge of the game at the pre-merge. Now, a lot of people were saying this is going to buy you a lot of loyalty. I saw on Twitter people saying this is going to get a lot of loyalty from Jessica to David. And now I think it's likely that does play out later in the season, but just based on the things we're seeing in the story, you see Jessica thank David. So that might have an impact on the game. But, going into this, how much I feel like there's a law of survivor power about gratitude here, Rob. Is gratitude a good thing to rely on?
Well, you shouldn't ever rely on gratitude, and that can definitely get you into trouble when you feel like, okay, I saved this person's ass, so they're going to go ahead and thank me later. It doesn't always work out that way, because the person who you saved thinks about, wow, I really got myself out of a tight spot there. I was really, what a fighter I am. I have so much confidence now in myself to be able to make big moves, and really my narrative is really on the up and up now that I've saved myself once again. But Stephen, just to go through this, I mean, if for David, I think it might have been a really a much better move, assuming they were going to stay together. And again, with the swap coming up, who knows how it's going to play out. But what would the next move have been for the Alliance if they stayed together? Because now, Sunday. You going to vote out either Chris or Brett at the next tribal council if this Gen X group was going to stay together? It seems like the only logical move, if you got rid of Lucy here, you figure that he's going to keep Ken, he's going to keep Cece, he's going to keep Jessica. So now you only have Brett and Chris and Sunday. Was Jessica then going to go ahead and vote out Sunday at the next tribal council?
I guess that's what they're relying on, even though those two are obviously, although, Sunday voted for Jessica here. But again, like the more salient point is that all of these the people who are in this alleged alliance that's allegedly taking over control of the tribe are voting against each other. Like that's not something that's going to be, that they're going to go back to camp and be like, actually, we're the tight, strong four. And I think that's a function of like, you watch the show, you're like, you envision in your head, oh, these four guys, they're together now. Now they're together. No, clearly they don't even like each other. They don't trust each other. That's for sure. I think they
may like each other.
They may like each other. They may like each other. Sometimes I don't even like you. How was that? Was that a better guess? I'm working for Al's accent. Yeah.
All right, let's talk through some of the other people besides the idol play. For Lucy, I don't understand the move, and we got this narrative that Lucy is a dictator, but coming out of last week's vote, it was this idea of, okay, we have to get rid of the person who was the quote-unquote mastermind of the Paul boot from last week, and that person is Jessica. And there was really no evidence to back up the fact that there was any sort of overconfidence on Jess's part now as the mastermind of the Gen X tribe.
But I do think, as we talked about last week, right, this move by Jessica was also too big, right? A too big, too soon move.
And bad.
And as a result, like, no surprise to anybody, Chris and Paul, who are, sort of the anchors of this tribe, Chris and Brett, now are furious at her, and they feel totally alienated from her. And so I actually think it's not a bad move from Lucy to say, you know what, guys, I'm with you. Let's get rid of her. I think that's actually smart. And in fact, if Lucy's move had gone according to plan, had David not played the idol, you'd actually have a pretty unified tribe again. You'd have that previous alliance, which just got rent asunder, voting together. You now have Ken voting with that alliance. Ken, who was always on the outs, now is voting with that alliance against Jessica. You'd actually have a cohesive group, relatively cohesive group coming together again. Right before a swap, which would be very crucial. But again, kind of driving that apart. If the Millennials, destroy these Gen Xers, it's because of the fissures that are happening right now, with Jessica turning on her alliance, with David, idling out, someone who's kind of trying to bring the tribe back together. Is this big moves, Rob? Is this, the big moves era of Survivor?
I mean, it certainly is the big moves era of Survivor, and that you chalked up Jessica wanting to make a big move up to her last week. David, again, is going to make a big move this week, and these are not correct moves, I don't think, so far. And so I don't know necessarily who is trying to make the biggest move here in the game, but it's not been great so far for the Gen Xers.
Yeah. Now, I obviously am someone who benefited from an idol play for me. And so I was speaking earlier this evening, in the 15 minutes between show and podcast with the grantee of that. And he said, I think it was a horrible move, way too soon to do that. I would not have played it for you.
Hold on. You're confusing people. Jeremy, you spoke with Jeremy Collins.
Jeremy Collins, who played his idol for me in Survivor Cambodia. I think there's a horrible move, way too soon to do that. I would not have played it for you that early in the game. Sorry, bro.
Well, why do you have to say that?
Yeah. I think, I think Jeremy would have. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does seem like it was very early in the game, especially with a swap looming. You would feel like that in a vacuum, David would be in a better position going into a potential swap, letting go of Jess because she's such a wild card, let alone the fact that maybe when Jess has to decide who is going to be the designated survivor of her day 36 legacy advantage, there is an off chance it might have been David as well.
Yes.
Yes. So I don't know if again, we're asking him to be a little bit omniscient there, that I'm not sure if he even knows how the legacy advantage works.
Or if
but there is
legacy advantage. Yeah, exactly.
There is certainly that possibility in play as well. But then let's talk about this from Ken's perspective. And was this a good move for Ken, that we talked about how, okay, Lucy, we can see the logic in what she's doing at least. Right. But for Ken to go and tell Jess, hey, just so you know, the jig is up and that Lucy is coming for you. I don't like the way she's talking to me.
Yeah. And obviously Ken's whole issue is like people being bossy, right? Like he hates people who are bossy, and that doesn't seem like strategy so much as it seems like psychology, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that Ken misplayed this round?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you know, he screws over. Well, right. He turns on Lucy to save Jessica. Jessica then sort of flips on him. And, you know, maybe it was correct of him then to vote out Jessica, actually. Maybe that's not a terrible move. Ken then rehabilitates himself into the tribe, votes out the person who obviously didn't have loyalty to him, you know, and theoretically is saving this person who, you know, he and Lucy kind of had it out, but sometimes that can be healing. And maybe Ken is not, maybe Ken is playing this correctly. What do you think?
I think that the right move for Ken would have been to never tell Jessica the plan, because he becomes now somebody who seems untrustworthy in the eyes of, you know, certainly Chris and Brett and maybe Sunday, the people who survived this vote. And if he would have been just happy to vote out Jess in this spot, again, he's in a pretty good spot with all of the remaining Gen Xers, and then you head into the swap, and then who knows how it goes. You think that he's probably somebody who's around for a while, but now he has a little bit of this stigma of being somebody who is spilling the beans, Stephen.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. And, you know, I think it comes down to psychology more than strategy here for Ken. But I don't think this was great. You know, isn't it better, theoretically, just for strategy reasons, isn't it better if everyone is kind of treating you like you're my secret ally, you know, come do this, and then someone else is like, oh no, you're my secret ally, come do this. And you know, again, like David was and Ken have this like complex about being on the bottom, and like, oh, I don't want to be on the bottom, I don't want to be treated like I'm on the bottom, but like no one is targeting them, you know, no one's coming after them. And granted, like David was a target maybe in the first vote, though no one really voted for him. And like to be in this position where like everyone is kind of treating them like they're not a threat, but nobody's coming after them, like that's exactly the position you want to be in right now in the pre-merge on Survivor.
And to be sympathetic to where David sits in the game, where it's like, okay, they're talking about a 5. They're talking about that group where it's Brett and Chris and Lucy and Sunday and potentially Jess and even maybe Ken are getting back together. And it's me and Cece that are at the bottom. Uh-oh, what are we going to do? I still think it's in the best interest to hold on to that idol, keep your powder dry. Yes. And if necessary, if you go to another tribal council, you might rattle off a couple of immunity victories, play it on yourself at the next tribal council, and live to fight another day with that idol in your pocket and say goodbye to Jess, who's not that great of an ally anyway.
Yeah. And I do think the randomness factor of not knowing where the idol is a huge issue. I mean, you know, that's something that you spend so much time speculating about. I mean, you know, again, not to take it back to Survivor Cambodia, like every vote we got wrong was because we were trying to second guess where the idol was, you know, when Kelly idled out Savage, just because we assumed, you know, we didn't think Kelly had the idol. When I got voted out, it was because we thought Joe had an idol. You know, all these wrong votes, you know, come to this like guessing game of who's got the idol and how are they going to play it and who might they hand it to. And if you have that information and you have it in your hand, like not only does it give you the actual power of the idol itself, but it just relieves so much other strategic complications, you know, in that guessing game.
Okay, let's just talk through a couple of the millennial issues tonight. Of course, the big news over on the Millennial Tribe: Adam finds the idol. A very nice piece of editing for Adam, right?
Yeah. Would you say that Adam has the winner story here?
I mean, that's good. That's pretty good stuff for Adam here tonight. And not only finding the idol, and then also, of course, then the story about his mom. I mean, it's a very moving piece of footage. So, you know, whether or not he's the winner of this season, good stuff if you're an Adam fan.
Yes, yes. And I thought that was great of Adam. Such a funny moment with those goats. That was such a great Survivor moment, wasn't it? Like, look, there's goats. Let's go goat hunting.
Yeah,
but and good for Adam to go looking for it too. You know, I think that
having some technical difficulties with hearing Steven. Steven, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. All right. Sorry. Not sure what was going on there. A little bit of a snafu. Yes. The millennials like to go goat hunting.
Yeah, but it felt like that was like good symbolism where, like, you know, however, like 8 of them are looking for goats and one of them is looking for idols, you know. You know, a lot of the time we talk about, oh, this person shouldn't be going idol hunting. It's putting a target on them. Adam's got a target. He's on the bottom of the tribe. He has nothing to lose. He's going idol hunting. Like, good for him.
Yeah. And so Adam certainly had a great episode. So did Michaela, Steven.
Yeah, she beasted out. So did Chris, though. Can we talk about Chris for a second? And like, I'm a Chris fan here, and I'm not ashamed of it. Chris is doing everything. You know, he's not driving strategy anymore, but he's voting the correct way. He's huge in the challenges. He's not pissing anybody off. You know, I don't think Chris is winning this game, but I love Chris.
Yeah, I'm a big Chris fan as well. I made it my winner pick in the preseason. I will say that just to nitpick that so far, I mean, he has not voted for the person who went home the last 2 tribal councils, but I do like some of the confessionals and things that he says. I like that line he had at tribal council, like, hey, like, I may be voting, you know, I may take it on the chin here at this tribal council, but I'm not going to second guess what I'm going to do. And it's time to find out, you know, who's the person at the table that shouldn't have played this hand. And I like that metaphor.
Yeah, I think that's really good too. And you know what? Like, the times that he has not voted with the tribe, as we've said, other people are making incorrect moves, you know? So I don't think we can blame him for making the correct move when other people are like screwing up.
Yeah. And so exciting stuff all the way around with the challenges. Both the challenges were interesting. Were you upset with the word puzzle, Stephen? I saw you tweeting out you were upset with the grammar.
Well, so I thought somebody is having their flame like snuffed tonight. There might be an agreement issue, but apparently I've been informed that there is now acceptable singular. So, you know, I grew up, I'm a Gen Xer. So for me, there was always a plural. Somebody is a singular. So I thought there was an agreement issue, but apparently there has now become accepted, which is really, you know, great for the language. And I'm sure Ken would also be thrilled.
Yes, as a student of the language. Stephen, anything else from this episode before we start to dive into some of these questions?
Let's see what else. So the only other thing to say is that wasn't it crazy that we didn't go right from the reward challenge to Gen X? We never saw them getting the reward.
Yeah. No, we saw them having leftovers of the reward. It seemed like that we picked things up at the Gen X tribe at the next morning of like, hey, there's still more sausage and peppers. Hey, how about that? We needed to go back and see what was going on with Adam hunting for the idol.
You know, you and I have talked a lot about how we hate, oh, it's rewards. This is so fun. Oh, great. Look at all this reward stuff, you know, that we find that to be like dead air. And so kudos to the Survivor editors for, like, you know, yada-yada-ing that part. You know, they got the fact, they got some food. They showed the food. We don't need to see like the 6 confessionals about how great the food was.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine as a secret scene. I think that the U.S. Survivor editors have really nailed down the art of getting to the gold.
Yes,
you know?
Yes.
We're going to cut to the chase. Yeah. To what's the essential thing. Now, that the problem is sometimes that when we don't see anything from, you know, there's not enough of a misdirect at times, like with Lucy, where we don't see her at all in the first 3 episodes. And then all of a sudden, when she's super visible in episode 4, it's probably not a good thing for Lucy, especially when we get to the point where you know, David is playing his idol. It's like, you know, 100%, you know, it's going to, there's no possibility that like, oh, is Sunday going to go home or anything like that.
Well, right. But you know what? That's like the nature of the beast. And like, yes, if you had 16 hours every week, like Australian Survivor, like you could have more confessionals for more people. It's a short time, you know, a lot's going on. We're in the big moves era of Survivor when everyone's making big moves all the time. So something's got to give here, Rob. We can't sustain all this like lunacy.
Yeah, something's got to give. All right. Let's go ahead, Lucy. Let's go ahead and take some questions here from the listeners. Stephen, why don't you get us kicked off with Parasocial Dude?
All right, Parasocial Dude wants to know, with David's big move, does his being a TV writer give him an edge with character and story arc optimization? That's funny.
What do you think, Stephen?
No, you answer. Is
there anything to that? I mean, I do think that, you know, in playing Survivor, you know, when you can sort of be writing for your character in terms of what you should be saying, what they're looking for, being sort of a producer, I think it can help to lead to getting more screen time as opposed to giving them exactly not what they're looking for. If you know what the story is that's being told, you can sort of cater what you're saying to be a part of that story.
I also think there's an element to which it's useful, even in the tribe, even with the other people around you, to be able to craft the narrative of how they perceive you. So to be able to like contextualize what you're doing for them, both to make yourself less threatening when they should be threatened by you, and towards the end to be able to explain to them why you deserve a win. You know, not just at the final tribal to say I did this and this and this and this, but you know, to set it up early to be like, this game is about X thing. And then people get in their heads, oh yeah, this game is about X thing. And then, you know, to really kind of sort of, and I was trying to do that in Cambodia with Joe. Like I kept on being like, oh yeah, Joe's my second chance. Joe's my second chance. Even, you know, and I you know, who's really effective at this actually was Coach. And I don't even know if it was intentionally so, but Coach as a storyteller would really set the narrative of the season. And certainly in Tocantins, he did this with this whole like warriors and, you know, the strong and blah, blah, blah. And it really does affect the way people perceive the game. You know, it's a game where the players are making up their own rules, where you're determining as players what you value, what's threatening, what's, you know, what makes a good ally. And that shifts every season. And then certainly at the final tribal, what you're rewarding, what counts as good play that you're rewarding shifts. And so storytelling is really important in that respect.
Okay, let's take another question. This one is from Andy Pfeiffer.
Okay. I feel like I just gave like my you know, my great speech, and you're like, all right, that's fine. I think I'm having audio.
I mean that, yeah. Andy Pfeiffer says, why do you think Jessica distrusted Ken? Why would he lie to her if the mastermind was Lucy? Why do you feel like that Jessica felt paranoid?
I think this is a good question. And it's, you know, I think from Jessica's perspective, she was in this tight alliance with Lucy and Sunday. You know, the three of them, from her perspective, the three of them decided to flip together. And now suddenly she's hearing this rumor from someone on the bottom of the tribe that her allies are out to get her. Like, you know, I think a lot of people wouldn't just immediately say, oh, you must be telling the truth, I'll turn on my ally here. You know, I think a lot of people are going to try to get to the root of it. And most people would have the inclination to trust their ally over that other person. So I wasn't that surprised by that. Like, yes, as we're seeing it portrayed, like how dumb of Jessica Lucy really is out to get her. But, you know, from Jessica's perspective, I don't think that's that unnatural.
Yeah.
What's your take here? What's your take here?
Well, we heard from Paul last week that Jessica is somebody who's a very paranoid player, and she's hearing something and she wants to go ahead and sort of like suss this out and get to the bottom of it. And for whatever reason, she might mistrust Ken. And so she wanted to go ahead and check in with the women and see what was going on there. And unfortunately, to her detriment, it was actually a plan. And she sort of, you know, really tipped off Lucy and maybe accelerated her ouster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Rob's Taboo Buzzer. Why did the minority split the vote? They already knew David had the idol. Well, I don't think it was a split vote, right?
I mean, I guess there was a throwaway vote for Cece from Jessica. Maybe not a throwaway. Or maybe he's saying, why didn't they split the vote? It's because they knew David had the idol.
I mean, how are you going to split it? You had these people that weren't even voting together in the right way. You had Jessica, who was supposedly in this alliance with Cece. She's voting for Cece because that's what she was told. Nobody clued her in that she's in the minority alliance. You had Ken voting for Jessica. So it was all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there it's too dangerous to split. You know, hopefully you don't think there's a reason for David to save Jessica. All right, Christian Esparza wants to know, was the wave a metaphor for Jeff possibly leaving the show soon? I hope not. What do you think here, Rob? Is the wave a metaphor?
Stop it.
That's what the question says. I'm just reading the question.
No, absolutely not. Jeff is not leaving the show soon. And well, even if he wasn't like, he just got like almost knocked down by a wave. I don't see how that's a metaphor.
Yeah.
You're the writer, Steven. That's not a metaphor.
You know, it depends. They left it in, so it could be. Amanda Fallon wants to know, is this the least amount of airtime a fourth boot has ever gotten?
Boy, I can't imagine that's the case. We'd have to go through the long history of the great fourth boots in Survivor history. I would say no, because she got so much. Well, I believe that going back to Survivor Fiji, the first time we were in Fiji, I'll say that the fourth boot got the least airtime ever.
Wait, what?
I'm hoping that my math is right on that one.
Wait, what?
I believe going back to Survivor Fiji, or the first time.
Who's the fourth boot in Survivor Fiji?
I believe it was Liliana. Believe that that's the case.
Wow.
Yes.
Don't even really know who that is. Exactly. Yeah, this was
and for all you wiseacres saying all-stars, screw you.
No, you had a lot of airtime. There was so much digging. You did all that digging in the sand.
Yes. Okay. All right. Lashana Leanne Covey. With this move, does it officially mean that David is officially a worse player than Cochran 1.0?
You know what? But David is. There's something to the fact that David is in a strong alliance, right? I mean, Cochran wasn't real. I guess Cochran was with Dawn and Papa Bear, right? David's in a strong alliance. He's making moves to build bonds. He's protecting people who are close to him. You know, I would never speak ill of Cochran. I think this was not a great move from David. I don't think it's a catastrophe. Yeah. I don't think it's a catastrophic move for David, right? All his allies are still in the game. Maybe he's protected somebody else and like built an alliance. You know, we've said every reason that it's a bad move. There are reasons it's not bad. It's a good move.
Okay. Is he worse than Cochran 1.0? We got to see. It's too early in the game. It's through 4 episodes.
Reserving judgment, my God. At this point, is he?
Yeah, I would say through 4 episodes. I mean, I think that he's certainly. I think he has more control in what he's doing than what Cochran had through 4 episodes of South Pacific. So I think he's ahead of where Cochran was through 4 episodes.
Cochran was very right. He was really at the bottom of his drive and really had to scramble to stay in the game. And it seems like David's in a much more comfortable position. Jay Steckley wants to know, how is it possible that Jessica did not believe Ken when at Tribal Lucy is admitting that the conversation with Ken and Dave happened? That's the funniest part, is that Lucy admitted that the conversation happened.
Yeah. So I don't know. Jessica is a little bit all over the place, Steven. That I'm not sure what curve we're grading her on, but it's not been great through 4 episodes for Gen X Jessica.
Yeah.
It's rough. So far, not so good. And especially considering that the thing with Paul might have been that he misspoke last week.
And it sure seemed like that, right? At the start of the episode, both Chris and Brett were like, we have nothing, that absolutely never happened. Like, it really seemed like it was just, and, I think a lot of people were saying, oh, there must have been more, we're just seeing an edited show. Paul must have done other things. But every time Jessica talks about it, it's really this one comment that Paul made, which is like, oh, he said that he might, if it was the boys thing, then so be it, and it was really just a kind of slip of the tongue.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like from the exit interviews with Paul as well. It does not seem like he was ready to jump ship for a guys alliance at any point.
Yeah. And that was what makes Survivor such a crazy game. It's like, you never know. It's not just that you have to watch everything that you say. It's more that, like, you never know what the thing that you say is that's going to just like rattle in someone's head until it drives them crazy and they vote you out.
Yeah. All right. This is from Tim Ellison. Steve, you want to take this one?
Tim Ellison wants to know, did David know that Ken was going to go with the majority and use CC for numbers? Is he at the top now?
Well, I don't believe that that's the case. Do you? I don't think that Ken knew about what was going to go on. If that was the case, then why wouldn't he vote with David?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Like, why were they voting apart? You know, if they're allies, I mean, maybe it was like a last minute decision by David with CC, like, hey, let's like idle this person out. You know, it really did seem like it was going to be a last minute thing for David.
Yeah, unless he was trying to have plausible deniability in terms of like, boy, I didn't know David was going to do that, but that doesn't make a lot of sense either.
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Ryan, hashtag Team Figgy. Are we still to believe that Figgy and Michaela hate each other? They work so well together in the challenges. Steven, are you buying the Figgy and Michaela hate?
It's like, I'm telling you, it's like the Kasaya alliance. You know, they can't stand each other and they work well together.
Yeah, I don't think that we should necessarily judge how effective a tandem are in a challenge to say whether or not they personally like each other. Like, I think you could work with somebody to try to get a ring from somebody, you know, to say that that's not necessarily the barometer. Steven, I liked what you were tweeting about during the puzzle challenge, where Jeff was really straining to get a metaphor going about the approaches of the Gen Xers and the Millennials on the puzzle.
Gen Xers working hard to try every combination. Millennials just go in their own way. Like, what is that? You could say they're going their own way no matter what they're doing. Like, what is the thing that millennials are doing where they wouldn't be doing it their own way?
Yeah, Gen Xers are just like trying to, try every single combination. Millennials are thinking about what my next move going to be. So it really speaks to it, Stephen.
And you could literally say the same thing for if it was the opposite. Millennials trying every the combination. They're all over the place. Gen Xers really muscling through this one idea. You know, like there's no wrong thing, where it doesn't perfectly hit the theme of the season.
That's what's so great about this theme. You can make it work for anything.
Yeah. All right. Poet Stephen Fishback, that's not me, wants to know, don't tell Nicole there were naked people on Survivor tonight. Oh, does Nicole not like naked people?
Let me watch it. Yeah. She would not approve of anything related to having naked people on it. So don't tell my wife that I podcast about this episode of Survivor. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't let her know. I won't be able to watch it, Stephen.
Yeah.
Very puritanical, Nicole. She won't care for that. Okay. Matt Siggs is Hannah the least subtle survivor of all time? Yeah. What'd you think about that when Adam was looking for the idols? Like, hey, Adam, did you find the idol yet?
You know what? Like, Hannah to me has taken on like a new vitality. The first few times it was like, oh my God, what are you doing? And then when you just say like, you know what? Let Hannah be Hannah. She's going to do her like Hannah thing. It's like kind of wonderful. You can't judge Hannah. Like, was that the strategically smart move to do in any way? It's like, she's just out there being Hannah. That's the millennial versus the Gen X. It's like Hannah, the Hannah thing, Hannah being Hannah.
Let Hannah be Hannah. Unshackled Hannah.
Unshackle Hannah. Yeah. What did you think of that moment, Rob?
What, when Hannah was saying, hey, did you find the idol yet?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was funny that a couple things out of that, where Adam is like, no, don't come in here. To Hannah to sort of get rid of her.
Right.
And then he like obviously like is speaking directly to the camera person in that moment where he's like says to her like you think that she saw me, like it's like he wasn't breaking the fourth wall talking to the audience, like he's clearly talking to the camera person in that moment. And then two, he didn't seem that concerned. He's like, all right, well, let me put the necklace on for a little bit also.
I thought that was crazy. Like obviously he's a fan and there's like such a great thrill to putting on the necklace, but like maybe not like on the beach.
right where he didn't seem that concerned. Like, all right, let me just try it on. I guess the toothpaste is out of the tube here.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more questions here with Stephen. Kurt Clark says, will those meat products keep without refrigeration? They pretty much have to eat it right away. Yes, maybe not the sausage. Boy, Kurt is thinking ahead.
Yeah, a lot of it is, there's a question of spoilage for sure. Meats go bad, dried meats keep better than, but in a humid climate, that really contributes to the meats going bad. So it's good that they ate it. It seems like the next day.
It seems like they ate some. We didn't see it. We saw them the next day when they were eating the leftovers for a second meal.
Yeah.
They saved some for the next day.
Yeah,
that's pretty much the clear answer.
Yes.
All right, Stephen. What about Mark?
Mark Galvin wants to know if there's a swap next week. The Gen X is in a numbers disadvantage. Will this have any effect on the game? And if so, how? Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but it will obviously have an effect on the game in the way that everything has an effect on the game.
Yeah. Do you think that we will end up potentially where millennials will just pick off the Gen Xers in any sort of swap situation? Or do you think that we are more likely to see some sort of new commingled alliance?
I think there will be mingling. What's up? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, I guess the obvious question is going to be, if Figgy and Taylor get split up, will one side of that showmance be targeted by the other group?
Oh wow, yeah.
Is it possible?
I guess, yeah.
I think that's what we have to start to look for going.
Right? Like if you knew
last question,
you would split that up.
It's happened many times before.
Yeah.
Actually, not that many times before. Kirsten McGannis says, with everyone playing incorrectly, does it matter less when bad moves are made? Stephen, in the Kingdom of the Blind, is the man with one eye king?
There's something to be said, though, for like being erratic and flamboyant, where it's really hard to play against someone who's acting erratically. So it's like you can't act rationally when your opponents are not acting rationally.
Yeah. It could end up sort of like devolving to the point where it's this sort of train wreck season where when everybody is playing well, I think that it probably means more when you make a good move. But when everybody is playing poorly, I do think that it's sort of just like this crazy game where anything can happen. So it's almost harder to figure out how it's going to go. And even a good move could backfire.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What do you think of the big moves era of Survivor? It's definitely fun viewing. It's fun podcasting. But you're you're not just a podcaster, Rob. You're a student of the game. You like good gameplay.
Yes, I'm the Doris Kearns Goodwin of Survivor, Stephen.
That's exactly what I've always said about you, the Doris Kearns Goodwin of Survivor. What do you think? Does the big moves thing bother you, or are you like, it's fun to talk about?
No, it's fun to talk about. It doesn't bother me at all. I would much rather have an interesting episode of Survivor to talk about every single week than have, I don't know, what are we sort of like hanging our hat on of like back when the game was pure and it was more boring.
You're going to summon Lex. You're going to summon Lex if you do that, if you say that 3 times.
Like Beetlejuice? No.
Yeah.
Look, it's fun. It's interesting, there's a lot of stuff going on. Like, look, if I only need to look halfway around the world to find what happens when it's not the big movie era of Survivor, Stephen.
There's a difference, though. There's a difference between no gameplay and good gameplay. I like the big moves. They're fun to talk about. It's always fun to get on my high horse about how bad someone else is doing. But I think I prefer when people are playing smart. And I think that, I would rather a slightly less, I liked One World. And I think I'm one of the rare few who liked One World because I thought Kim, I just loved watching Kim play week to week.
Let's go check the tape on that. Somebody fact check Stephen Fishback and let's find some podcasting from Stephen Fishback.
I stand by that
and hear about how much you love that season.
I loved that season. I didn't like, I loved Survivor One World. I'd stand by that.
When it was on, did you like it?
Yeah, when it was on, I really liked it. I was actually surprised at the time. Now, do I believe that there's probably tape of me saying at one point, "Oh man, this episode was boring"? Like, yeah, likely. Did I think?
Yeah. So what should you believe, Stephen Fishback or your lying eyes? What should you believe?
Yeah, but look, we talk a lot.
Fact checkers.
You can take a quote.
Rob has a website.com. We're live fact-checking Stephen Fishback right now.
You can take one quote from 5 years ago out of context when I was in a podcasting room, or you can look at my character.
Yes. Okay. Fine. Go and check Stephen's timeline. Retweet all of his tweets about how much he loved Survivor.
Podcasting room conversation.
Find his people blogs and talk about how, oh, what a season this is. Yeah. What a wonderful season. Give a fishy to Mark Burnett for this season.
I liked it, and I'm sorry that you're such a cynical person where you can't appreciate the true game and just need all these like bells and whistles like exploding in your face.
Yeah. All right, Steven, who gets the fishy tonight? That's your difficult question.
Well, it's obviously Adam.
Adam.
Yeah. A cop out. Who else is playing well? Who would you give the fishy to? The real challenge is who gets the cesty tonight. That's the real question.
Who played the worst? Well, I have to say, boy, it's difficult because to pick, for David, I think he's going to turn out okay. So, boy, I'd almost say I'd give it to Ken.
Just because David has a bigger story?
That I think that for David, I think that losing the idol, I think is gonna be a net positive for him.
Right.
So for Ken, I think he comes off as wishy-washy. He makes some enemies, and he wasn't even in the loop on what the ultimate plan was going to be. So I'll say that it's not a disaster for him. But I think if you want to ask who played the worst tonight, besides the person who got voted out, then I'll say I'll give it to Ken.
But Ken voted with the majority alliance. If you were like putting, odds on who's going to, let's say, right, we know there's a swap next week. Let's say there weren't a swap next week, which is obviously what David is counting on. Which is why he's playing his idol. You have,
you think he's counting? He's not counting on a swap next week.
I think David's not counting on a swap because his whole thing was like, how do I save my allies, right? But let's assume, which is David's supposition, that there's not going to be a swap next week. In my mind, you've still got this group of people who voted together. You've still got Paul, Chris, Sunday, Ken, all voted together. Jess is really, maybe Jess will be with Cece and David, but Ken to me looks like he's in the majority in this situation. He voted with the big group, or he could go with the small group. I think Ken is in a much better spot.
So let me just say, I think Jessica played the worst. She had the worst night. She gets saved by the grace of David, which I think was a bad move on his part. Ken also was bad in terms of telling Jessica what was going on and trying to make the move against Lucy. And David was bad as well. Lucy was also bad, but she gets taken out of contention because she got voted out. So I think if I had to rank the bad players this week, I think that Jessica was the worst. Ken was the second worst. David was the third worst.
Yeah. Okay.
And you could probably look if you wanted to switch it and say that David was worse than Ken. I wouldn't be mad at that. I'm not pounding the table to say that Ken was terrible. But if I would look, you asked me a question, I'm trying to answer it.
Right. And what about Brett?
Okay. Brett was fine. Well, why would Brett be bad?
No, I like Brett.
Yeah, I like Brett too. I like Chris. So it's fine. Sunday is picking up the mantle of Purple Lucy. So we'll see.
We'll
see what happens there.
Yeah.
Steven, what's the hashtag tonight? Hannah Unshackled.
Unshackled.
Good winners edit. What's the hashtag?
I liked Sorry Bra as well. But maybe Hannah Unshackled. Jeremy.
Sorry, bro. Okay, whatever you want, Steven.
Let's do Hannah Unshackled. That's pretty good. Doris
Hannah's Unshackled.
So long.
Well, no, it's impractical. All right, Steven. All right.
And no one's gonna know how to spell Doris Kearns Goodwin either. I mean, I don't even know how many A's are there.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, Steven. So go ahead and let us know your people blog is dropping when.
I think tomorrow. Wait, I need to give a shout out. I know you hate this, but a fan approached me on the street, Tim Marksman, and I was in a huge rush, and I tried to say hi, but I also kind of like, it's nice to see you. So Tim, I'm sorry that I didn't speak to you longer. And in general, I think it's really cool when people say hi on the street. So please, if you're in that situation and you see me and you're a podcast listener, please come say hi. And I apologize for I was running late to a movie with a friend. Sorry.
Too bougie, not a man of the people.
No, that's not what I said. You misinterpreted what I said. It was the opposite.
Steven Fishback is out of touch with the Survivor fans.
Oh God. Tim, you'll back me up here. I was perfectly polite, but I was in a little bit of a rush.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Steven, Believe me, Steven is not in touch with these people. All right. So, Steven, fun stuff as well. Next week, again, assuming that the debate goes on as scheduled, we will go ahead and be live on Thursday morning, the 20th. So, looking forward to that for episode number 5.
Sister Neen Day?
That's a reach. Okay, and of course, don't forget to check out our coverage of Australian Survivor. Australian Survivor Know-It-Alls is a thing that's happening. This week's episode already went up on Tuesday. We'll be back again to talk about what we go from 6 to 5 next week.
Yeah, and we're already being crapped on for
2-part episode to get down to the final 6 tribal council.
So the finale is the 2-part episode. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So that's coming up next week. Check your local listings for more information on that. Of course, tomorrow, Randy Bailey on the podcast. If you want to send in an email for Randy Bailey to answer a long form question, survivor@robhasawebsite.com. And then also don't hesitate to get your voicemails in for Miles and I. Go ahead and get those into robhasawebsite.com/voicemail or 323-282-RHAP. Steven, anything else?
No, this was good. No more shout outs.
No more shout outs. All right. Thanks so much to Scott St. Pierre behind the scenes as usual. Have a good night, everybody. We will talk to you tomorrow. Exit interview and more coming up on robhasawebsite.com. Subscribe to the podcast, robhasawebsite.com/iTunes. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.